Being a creator and sharing your music, your video, or your art online is not easy. Let's be honest, sometimes it kind of sucks. Everything from your own self-image to the perception of others to the anxiety you feel every time you share anything that you create. So in this video, I'm going to break down the 10 things that really suck when you're a creator, how I deal with them, and maybe, just maybe, I can pass on a few tips that can help you. Let's go. Number one, self-image. Yeah, this can be one of the hardest things to do. If you want to put yourself out there to the world, you want to put your face in a video on the internet, guess what? Not all of us love it when we look in the mirror and are 100% happy with what we see all the time. I think that's kind of a given, but how do you move past that and realize that, guess what? It doesn't matter. Well, here's the secret. Everybody feels the same way. Everyone has that level of self-doubt. There's only a tiny handful of people that don't have any issues at all with their own self-image, and those are sociopaths and psychopaths. And unless you're one of those two categories, you probably have felt worried. Maybe you've never shared your own face online. Look, I've been told I've got a face for radio, and I know the self-deprecating stuff, it's not always cool, and I try not to use it very often. But it is a defense mechanism because all of us have that feeling around our own self-image. We all have things about ourselves that we'd like to change, not just our physical appearance, but a lot about our personality. Maybe you're introverted, maybe you're socially awkward. Hey, guess what? If you're a creator, you probably are. We're not the most confident folks to hang out with at a party, but there are ways to push past that. And like most things, you're gonna get a theme throughout this video. And that theme is that the more you do something, the easier it becomes. The very first time I did a video, I didn't show my face. The first time I showed my face, I thought immediately I was gonna get all of the comments. And I also don't love my voice. I have a very nasal voice. I have a slightly weird Australian accent, or at least that's what a lot of people tell me in the comment section. So for me, it was even harder when I started doing things because I was worried about the way I looked. I was worried about the way I sounded. I was worried that the information I was providing wasn't correct or people might call me out on it. And you know what happened? Virtually nothing, which wasn't great because it meant no one was watching. But when people did start watching, guess what? 99% of folks said, thanks for sharing the great information. And more importantly, thanks for putting yourself out there, because now I feel like I can put myself out there as well. If I can do it, you can do it. Let's do it. Before we move on, we're going to be talking about some reasonably heavy topics in this video. This isn't the usual, here's how to do a thing in GarageBand or here's how to set a compressor. So if you are genuinely, legitimately struggling, there are places out there. I'm not a professional psychologist or therapist. I'm not the person you need to be reaching for when things are not going well in your life, but there are places and people that can help you out. So if you are legitimately struggling right now and you're triggered by anything that we talk about in the next 9 things, please reach out. There are people out there, there are organizations out there that can and will help. Okay, now that we're clear on that, let's talk about number 2, which is criticism. What about when people criticize you and what you do? Hey, that person probably didn't want me to be on the footpath because they were trying to do a U-turn at the moment. But what about criticism? How do you manage that? It's one of the hardest things when you're first starting out, because I don't know about you, but I don't love it when people tell me that I'm crap. I don't love it when people tell me that I suck. But you know what I've learned over time? The vast majority of people won't do that. When you start first sharing your creative endeavors online, you are going to think that everyone is going to start saying, oh my God, that's the worst thing I ever saw, that's the worst thing I ever heard, that's the worst piece of art ever. You know what the sad reality is? You're not going to hear that. Why? Because no one's listening and no one's watching. So first and foremost, accept that sometimes you put yourself out there, you're all worried about it, and then no one's watching or listening anyway. When they do start listening, there's another thing that you have to start considering, which is that Strangers on the internet are not the best source of feedback. Feedback is important. Criticism, constructive criticism is important, but it's also important to consider the source. You need to know who's telling you, and more importantly, you need to know why they're telling you what they think of you and your music or your art or your videos or your creativity. The challenge that we all have is to realize that 99% of people are going to tell you you're doing well, keep doing. And even the ones that give you feedback, if it is legitimately feedback that is going to help you, that is going to lift you up instead of pull you down, that's a good thing. But you know what the problem is? You know what we all do? You know what I did? You focus on the 1%, don't you? You focus on the 1% of people that tell you that you're crap, that tell you don't know what you're doing, that tell you that you shouldn't be doing music or doing art or creating at all. And you know where that gets you? Absolutely nowhere. So how did I get past this? Well, it was hard. At first, I confronted it. And that was probably the worst thing I could do, to actually engage with. Over time, I learnt to just let it go. There's a book I'm reading at the moment called Let Them. But it's not just about letting them, it's letting you get on with things. Because guess what? The criticism you get from strangers on the internet is not the right criticism to look at or to care about. The feedback you want is from trusted people that are trying to build you up and not tear you down. And the sooner that you can realize that and recognize the difference between the two, the better you're going to be. Number 3 is something that is so important to me that I wrote a song about it, and that is anxiety. If you've ever had to deal with anxiety, yeah, you know why it's taking me a few minutes to even get into this discussion, or at least a few seconds. See how anxious I am? So anxiety, if you have been diagnosed with or are struggling with, and you know that you are struggling with, any sort of anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder, panic attacks, they're all in the same family. They're really hard to deal with, aren't they? Because especially when you're a creator and you want to start sharing yourself online or in public, that little anxiety monster, boy does it do double duty. It makes it really hard for you to put yourself out there. And I'm not going to say that, hey, just rip the Band-Aid off and do it. Obviously that would be great if we could all just do that. But what I will tell you is that what I learned is baby steps. If you're anxious about sharing your first thing, think about chunking it down. Think about doing it in baby steps. So the first thing you may do is share with one person. Then maybe you share in a trusted group of people, if you're sharing music or if you're sharing art or video or whatever it is. And then maybe you'll move on to more public sharing. But the thing is, you don't have to do a lot at once. I know that they say back in the day, they're like, oh, just chuck them in the deep end and they'll either sink or swim. I don't think that's ever been good advice. And I don't think there's too many therapists. Even though I've said I'm not a licensed therapist, I don't think there are too many therapists that would say, yeah, just shock treatment, just jump in with both feet is the way to do it. So easing into things can actually help you. Because here's the thing, I've talked about this before. Anxiety, there's this circle of comfort. If you're someone who struggles being comfortable with things, think of it like a balloon. Think of it like a balloon that you blow up. And if you blow up a balloon too fast, what happens? It pops. However, if you blow it up a little bit and then let it come back and then blow it a little more and then let it come back and then a little bit more and let it come back, eventually you've got a big, strong balloon. And think about your anxiety as the same thing. Your level of comfort with sharing yourself online and in public is going to do the same thing. You do a little bit and the world doesn't end, you're going to feel better. You do a bit more, the world still doesn't end, you'll feel better. And this is advice for everything in life, not just about sharing your stuff online. So anything you do can actually be helped by thinking about it in terms of doing a little bit and then just easing back out. You don't have to throw yourself out of your comfort zone immediately, but just ease your way out. You'll be surprised at how quickly you got a big giant balloon. But what about self-doubt? What about that little voice inside your head that says, I'm not good enough. Everyone else is better than me. There's no way that I can be as good as everyone else. Well, guess what? Yeah, we all have that as well. We all have self-doubt, especially if you've tried something and maybe it hasn't worked out exactly the way you thought it would the very first time. Here's the thing though, just like the anxiety stuff, the doubt you have in yourself is not only natural and not only overcomable, is that a word? fixable, but everyone else is feeling it. And guess what? Again, like what we went through at the start, if people are not feeling self-doubt, yeah, they're probably sociopaths. There's very few people that don't feel like they don't belong. And you can call self-doubt things like imposter syndrome, or you can just say you lack confidence, but it's all the same stuff. If you're feeling like you don't belong, you're not good enough, the things you're doing aren't the best that they could be, guess what? Practice makes progress. And the more you do it, the better you get, and the less the self-doubt will play on your mind. What about for me? How did I feel? Well, when I first started out, I was so doubtful of what I was doing. I didn't think I knew anything. In fact, I didn't. Let's be honest. I didn't know anything about GarageBand. I didn't know anything about recording. I thought that as soon as I put something out, someone would come at me and say, you don't know compression, you don't know EQ, you're just a guy, you've never studied this stuff, you haven't got a degree in recording and music engineering. And I didn't. They were right. But did they come out and say that? No. So was all of that self-doubt actually worth it at the end of the day? No. Doesn't mean it's not going to be there. But again, chunk it down. Start small. Start sharing your stuff. And the more that you do it, the more you realize other people just don't care about it. And I know, that's bad, isn't it? It's like when I said people don't listen to music. Yeah, we do. We overinflate the importance of what we do and how much other people are going to think about it. Have you ever had that thing where you've had an argument with a friend and you leave them and you're thinking, oh my God, next time I see them, they're going to be like, oh, I'm still so angry at you. And then you go, and the next time you see them at a party or you see them at a social event, you're like, hey, and you're waiting for them to have a go at you, and they're like, hey, how you going? And they don't care. They don't even remember it. They've completely forgotten about it. And you might be like, oh, I thought you were angry at me because of what happened last time. They're like, last time? What happened? And you tell them, they're like, oh, I don't care about that. Yeah, we were just having a discussion. I voted for that guy and you voted for that lady. It's just a thing at a place. So, yeah, the self-doubt can often be more in your head and more what you're thinking than what anyone else is. I'm going to go down this slippery dip. Number 5, inspiration. How do you get inspired when you don't know what to do, when you don't have that creative energy flowing, when you just feel like you couldn't possibly write a song, paint a picture, make a video? There's a bunch of quotes around this stuff. Like one famous person whose name I forget said, I don't know how I get creative, but I just happen to do it at 9 o'clock every morning, or something like that. I'm terrible with quotes. But the point there is that sometimes you can just be creative and you can inspire yourself. Sometimes you can't. I talked about this recently. Sometimes it's just not today, or it's just not this week, or even this month. Sometimes you need a break. Sometimes you need to step away from what you're doing and just reset and reconfigure things and then come back at it. Other times you may be able to find a way to do something. And this is what I'm saying. With inspiration, often it's about doing something instead of nothing. If you do nothing, you'll feel terrible. So today, for instance, I hadn't recorded this podcast and I wanted to go for a walk. So what did I do? Kesca a la dos, or something like that. I did both. I came out here, I went for a walk, and I enjoyed nature, and now I'm recording this podcast in some fairly weird locations. So yeah, just find a way to do things. And with your music and your creation, it can be the same thing. You're waiting for a bus for 5 minutes. Why not open your notes app and just jot down some ideas? Or open your voice recorder and hum in some bars of a song that you want to try and record or create. Just spend those little tiny chunks and think to yourself, what is the smallest amount I can do today that is going to push the needle forward? That means at the end of the day, I won't feel like I've done absolutely nothing and it's been a creative void, but I don't necessarily have to get everything done. Am I anywhere near in focus? I got no idea. Let's move on. Related to inspiration is motivation. What's the difference? Well, inspiration is being able to start. Motivation is being able to finish. So being able to actually get stuff done. Now, I like to use something that I call positive time pressure. That's the way I get motivated. That's why I do something called Songtember every September. That's a song in a month challenge that we do right here on the channel. And if you'd like to be involved in that, hey, hang around. We're going to be doing that. Make sure you're subscribed and liking and doing all those weird YouTube things. But how do you stay motivated? You make time for music. I know, it's hard, isn't it? It's hard as a creator because you probably don't even have time to scratch yourself some days, let alone create music. But do what I said in the inspiration section and use those little chunks of time to get motivated and to get stuff done that you wouldn't ordinarily be able to do. The other thing to do is to communicate. So if you're in a family, or if you've got children, or if you've got a partner, or if you've got pets, I mean, maybe not the pets, they may not listen to you, but make sure that you actually communicate with the people around you and say, hey, I just need 30 minutes. Can I have 30 minutes? Let's give me 30 minutes, kids, and then I'll come and watch Peppa Pig with you and play Roblox and do all the other things. My children are way too old for any of that, but you know what I mean, right? Those of you with younger kids or with other commitments, it can be hard. But if you communicate and you just say, guess what, dad or mum or auntie or uncle or polyamorous family unit member, we just need a little bit of time, you'll be surprised how people will be accepting of that. It's when you don't communicate that it's hard. So motivation, yeah, it is tricky and you do have to make time for it, but it's possible. And I'm a testament to that. Before I did this full time, I used to do little bits of this in my lunch break or walking to work or on the bus home. It's just finding those little pockets of time so that you can be inspired and motivated. What are you hitting? And why? Very, very closely related to that is time management. How on earth do you manage your time? Now, don't freak out, but I use a calendar. I know, I never used to. And guess what? I didn't get shit done. I'm sorry to be so crude about it, but without a calendar, without a plan, I didn't get anything done. I didn't get stuff done. That's probably what I should have said the first time. And does that mean that you need to schedule, however you like to say it, yourself within an inch of your life and make sure that absolutely everything is planned and executed and complete? No, not at all. But guess what? I know, I hate to say this because this is like one of the old things from my corporate days, but what gets measured gets managed. And that, I feel wrong. I feel dirty even just saying that. But the part of that I like is that you should plan to do stuff, because even if you don't, this is the hard thing. If you plan to do something and you don't do it, sometimes you feel like a failure, yeah? Except I think it should be the other way around. I think if you plan to do 10 things and you get 5 things done, you should give yourself a giant air high five and say, good job, me, I got 5 things done. Because guess what? If you plan to do none, how many are you probably going to get done? Yeah, none. So not achieving everything. And my wife, I talked to my wife about this because we'll have these big to-do lists. We'll be on the weekend and we'll be like, right, we're going to do all these things. And we get to the end of the day and we've done like 70% of them. Should we be feeling like down in the dumps and terrible that we didn't achieve everything? Or should we be going, oh, heck yeah, we did like so much more than we would have if we didn't try to do anything? So I think sometimes for those of you like me who didn't want to schedule things, who didn't want to have a plan or a calendar, or couldn't get their head around planning to do things, just think about it and go, maybe I can plan to do a few things. And then the key is just don't beat yourself up if you don't get them all done. Because we're not all machines and robots yet. AI's coming though. You'll be a robot soon. Number 8 we've touched on a little, and that is skill gaps. Okay, we haven't really talked about it in detail, but there will be times where you, like I was thinking, I don't have the knowledge or the skills to do what I want to do. And that's absolutely fine because, as I've said before, and as I'll continue to say over and over again, practice makes progress. The more you do something, the better you get at it. So if you have a skill gap, there's a few things you can do. You can sit there and get all stressy about the fact that other people are better than you and that you don't know what you're doing and that people are judging you and that people are going to call you out on your ability to not do things. Or guess what? You learn how to do the things. I know, this sounds like it's really simple, but it's actually one of the hardest things to do for other reasons we'll talk about in just a moment. But being able to identify what you do well and what you don't do well. And guess what? Sometimes you'll have a skill gap that you never feel. Oh no, you're terrible at programming drums. Guess what? Your friend is great at it. Oh no, you don't know how to play the bass. Guess what? You can go onto the Create, Record, Release Facebook group and find an epic bass player and collaborate with them. But guess what? You're amazing at guitar, so then you can give them your guitar parts and everyone's happy. Right? Can you see where we're going with this stuff? So yeah, you will have skill gaps. There will be things that you don't do well that you might be feeling bad about. But guess what? You got two options. You either fill it or you don't. But guess what worrying about it does? Absolutely nothing. So try to work on the skills that you want to and accept and acknowledge the skills that you don't have. If you don't want to learn it, you don't have to. The beauty of collaborations, and there's plenty of videos on this channel all about collaborating with other folks to get great music. I was trying to do a funny bit where I came out of this toilet, but the tree won't hold my phone. Number 9, related to the skill gaps, is blind spots. Now, you know how we talked about criticism, which I call feedback? Yeah, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So blind spots refer to the fact that you might think you got it all sorted out, and then you share your music with someone else, and then they say to you, actually, you mix your vocals way too loud. That's what they said to me. Or actually, your drums are over compressed. Or actually, you're mixing your whole if you're a GarageBand user, I've told this to many folks, you're mixing your project overall way too loud. And that auto compression and normalization that GarageBand puts in there is making it sound cruddy. So you may not know that, but it takes a certain amount of humility to listen to other folks and realize that maybe they know something that you don't know. And that's okay. In fact, it's amazing because everyone in every facet of life has blind spots. We have things that we think we know and we don't really know, or things we think we're good at that maybe we could use some work on. Or the flip side, guess what? We also have positive blind spots, things that we're actually amazing at that we don't think we are. And when other people tell you we are, that can be great too. You can learn that you're actually amazing at something that you thought you were only just mediocre at. So by sharing with others, by talking with others, and by learning how to accept feedback. And look, it took me a while. It took me a long time to learn how to accept any sort of feedback, whether it was positive, negative, or otherwise. But once I was able to do that, it really did elevate what I was doing to the next level. Yeah? Yeah. Let's finish up with number 10. Number 10, last but by no means least, is comparison. Yeah, have you ever compared yourself to someone else, whether it be in the music realm, the YouTube realm, the creative realm, or the workplace? How does it work out for you? Is it a good thing? Is it a good outcome in the end if you spend your time and effort and life comparing what you've done to what other people have done? Or at the end of the day, is it a bit of a waste of time? Because guess what? We're all different. You can only be the best you, and other people can be the best them. And if you compare yourself to other folks who have done it differently, done it for longer, are different people, are in different countries, have different backgrounds, have different skill sets, guess what? You're going to be frustrated. You're going to be angry. And we don't want frustration or angry. We want love. And we want just joy and enjoyment of music and creativity. It's why I don't love the competitive nature. Why does everything have to be a competition these days? Why is every cooking show a competition? Why is every music show a competition? Why are there dancing shows that are a competition? There's a show called Married at First Sight. Why is marriage a competition? Some people would tell me in the comments, my marriage does feel like a competition sometimes. Maybe that's not a great sign. But comparing yourself to others, it never actually ends well. And if you can find a way to not do it. Look, did I do it early on? Yes. I wanted to be the next Graham Cochran or Joe Gilder or Liz Shaw. But guess what? I wasn't those dudes. I was this dude. And the sooner that you can realize that you're not those dudes or this dude either, you're you and you're the best you in the world, then the better off you're going to be. Did this help? I hope there was a little nugget of something in here that you can take away with you and that's going to help you out. But if you've got your own views, your own thoughts, maybe some additional tips for me and for the rest of the community, please drop those in the comments section down below. Jump on over to studiolivetoday.com. That's where you can find out all the stuff that I do here, all the videos. I promise you there's more than 3,000 videos here, and most of them are actually practical advice about how to create, record and release music. But let's not underestimate the mental aspect, the fact that we are all just people and we're all trying to do our best, and sometimes we just need a little nudge in the right direction if we're struggling to get motivated and get creating. That's going to do it for this one, folks. Please be kind to yourselves, be kind to others, keep creating, and I'll see you next time here on Studio Live Today. Get this phone off this bin. Ew. Stinker. Stinker.